Sound check. Hey, good evening, everybody. My name is Dr. Nathan Thompson with the Wellness Way, Yorkville. Happy Monday, guys. Um, Hope you guys had a great weekend. 4th of July coming up on Friday. So make sure, guys, that you are safe with your fireworks. Don't blow off your fingers or anything like that. So tonight, I just got back this weekend from Orlando, Florida, where I watched my daughter play volleyball. What an absolute honor to see her grow and develop as a player. So we had a great time, got in very, very late on Sunday morning, actually. So wanted to make sure I did a question and answer for people. I know I do this every couple of months, and I'm going to be answering some very, very important questions. And in fact, if you do have a question, I'll let you know what I want you to ask those so that I can answer those questions on this broadcast. But if you're watching me right now, say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. It's really good to see you guys. But tonight I'm going to talk about some issues that I know a lot of people ask me about in consults, things like that. And so, but a lot of times people reach out and they send a message and they want to know, about certain topics and things like that. And I know that if people ask them, then chances are there's a lot of other people that are thinking the same thing. So I'm going to be talking about fasting tonight, kind of the good and the bad, not like how to do it, but who should specifically be doing it. I'm going to talk a little bit about the idea of healthy longevity, boosting testosterone, and hey, I got some digestive issues. What would you recommend? So I'm going to be going over all of that with you, and I'm going to give you the approach in a different perspective from the Wellness Way perspective. Okay, so very, very important. And so I'll just help you guys see it just a little bit differently. However, before that, I want to start talking about wins for the week because, being in my line of work, it's very easy to see a lot of the negative things that go on. But if you always are focusing on the positive, it's one of the things that just keeps you going. Okay. So here's some wins for the week. This is actually what's really, really cool. So I got back to the office, had to come in yesterday, and I had a message that popped up, and there was an individual who had really suffered with infertility and her hormones for a very, very long time. And I got a message that she's been working very diligently, and now she is pregnant. So I think that's really, really good. I think she had been really, as a couple, husband and wife, trying to get pregnant for years and years and years. She was able to get pregnant for the first time on her own. So that made me very happy. And I also saw an individual who had came in today, and he had lost 18 pounds in 1 month. This person was not considered obese or anything like that, but lost 18 pounds in 1 month. Please don't ask me what I did because everybody's different. Everybody is unique. And then the other thing too is he's like, hey, this is really weird, but I'm actually urinating normally. So he was having a lot of issues with a lot of prostate type of symptoms that were going on. And you can see that he started to return to normal literally in about 4 weeks. So those things are actually really, really cool. They're really, really awesome. They're really, really good. I love to see that. And I love to see people get better. I'd love to see people get start to express their health a little bit better. I know, a lot of times we talk about, some of the things that can cause sickness, illness, and disease, or don't allow people to adapt very well, and you talk about the idea of sickness and illness, but I think what's more important is the approach that gets people better. And I'm going to tell you something. A lot of medical doctors absolutely hate what we're doing within the wellness way. They absolutely hate it. And I don't know why. Because if someone gets better, it's almost like an affront. I mean, they get better, not being on drugs or not having surgery or not having this. And I'm like, they got better. And if you're a healer, then you should be happy when people actually get better. But the reality is we have more and more people on more and more drugs and medications, have more and more surgeries than ever before. And we are sicker than ever before. Are we living longer? Yes, but we're living longer sicker. And that's the problem. So those are just some of the wins for the week. Please don't ask me the protocol. There is no protocol. Everyone is different and unique, and it's all based off of testing. So I think that's really awesome because one of the things that matters to me the most is clinical results. That's it, clinical results. You can talk about it, until the cows come home. But the thing is at the end of the day, it's all about clinical results. And in fact, if you need clinical results and you are suffering and you're from the Chicagoland area, one of the things I want you to do is I want you to please make sure that you get registered for our next inflammation event. This is Tuesday, July 1st. Yes, that's tomorrow at 6:00 p.m. I know that we have a lot of people registered for that. And so if you're from the Chicagoland area and you want to work with us directly, you have a health issue and you're like, gosh, I just don't know what to do in order to help with it, whether that might be weight loss resistance, whether that might be cancer. And I know people go up in arms, like we're not trying to treat it. Infertility. This is really a hormone type issue. Thyroid disease. This is usually an immune system issue. Arthritis. This is an immune system issue and also a physical type issue. Type 2 diabetes, autoimmunity, hormone imbalance. I'm going to touch on this just a little bit later on because I know that this was a question for me, that someone had for me regarding hormones. Remember, hormones are messengers. And if hormones are low or they're not, quote unquote, imbalanced, then obviously there's something that's going on that has been making a person sick for a long period of time. So if you want to work with us directly, you want the Wellness Way approach, and you want to work with me directly, and you're from the Chicagoland area, please make sure that you go to our Linktree profiles on all of our socials, and you'll see that. You just click on that. It's even in the description of this video. Because right now we're broadcasting live to Rumble, to YouTube, and also to Facebook. But if you go on that, you'll see this pop up first. Just click on that. Take you 60 seconds to register. The only thing that we ask is if you register for it, that you are committed to showing up. All right. I have a list of people who have registered for it and they don't show up because in the back of my mind, it just makes me wonder, are they really committed to changing their life? So if you register for it, be a person of your word and make sure that you are showing up for it. Now, coming up, starting tomorrow, is the July Get Fit Challenge with the Wellness Way. So I talked about this last week a little bit. And so here's a little bit of the ins and outs regarding the Get Fit Challenge. In fact, I had a story on Instagram, yesterday saying, hey, the Get Fit Challenge is coming up. Why are you working out? And I'm like, well, I started the Get Fit Challenge 15 years ago. So, but here's some of the ins and outs of the Get Fit Challenge. Is you really want to start to create healthy habits. And so the daily activities that you want to be doing is 30 minutes of movement. If you know your food allergies, you are avoiding those. 15 to 20 minutes of sun exposure. Yes, exposure to sun is actually good. I went out for 20 minutes and got sun exposure without slathering myself with sunscreen or anything like that. No, I'm not an advocate of burning, but yes, I'm an advocate of getting some sun. And then making sure you're getting your target range of protein, which is probably going to be a lot more than what you think it is. Getting enough water with electrolytes. And I have my water here. With electrolytes, I don't drink plain water. And 15 to 20 minutes of grounding, bare feet on the ground. All of those things can be really, really good. And then in addition to that, I'll talk about this too. Dr. Patrick goes live every single Saturday on ADP, a different perspective. And if you engage in that, and if you're on that broadcast, they do literally hundreds and hundreds of dollars of giveaways every single week. So if you're on there, you engage, and you do a lot of that stuff, chances are you'll probably win some awesome prizes. Okay. So here's one of the things that you can do is if you're like, I want to do that challenge, then you can go to wellnessway.com, get fit, and just leave your email and they'll give you all the ins and outs of what you can do in order to join that challenge. So we're doing awesome challenges almost every single month. And because we really take a vested interest in helping people improve their lives, even if you don't have to be a patient in order for that to happen. But I will tell you, being a patient, getting testing done is one of the fastest ways to get you from point A to point B. But I think that, does everyone need testing in order to get fitness? Not necessarily. And I'm a huge, 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 huge fan of fitness. And I think everyone should be doing it. And in fact, when you see this right here, you'll see that it's hosted on the school app. And so, if you get a 1 month membership, to the Get Fit Challenge, you will see not only a bunch of resources in regarding to the actual challenge regarding fitness, but you'll also see hours and hours of content and videos on there. And in fact, you probably won't be able to go through it in a whole entire month. But you see, when you go on to that, you'll see on the school app, you'll see here's how we see things differently. you know, we get a lot of flack on social media because doctors don't see it differently. In fact, they think everything is just two dimensional. It's this for this for this for this. And this is why when you start thinking of the Swiss watch approach, how everything starts affecting everything, this is why you have to start taking care of the person and not taking care of a lab or taking care of the diagnosis. You have to start taking care of the person. And so this is a great example of what's on the school app. And this is just a small smidgen of all the different resources that are going to be on there. So all you have to do in order to sign up for it is just go to our Linktree profile and you'll see the Wellness Way Plus membership. Just go on there and you'll be able to sign up. And I always tell people, it's like for the price of what it is for a whole year membership onto that website, it's actually less than the cost of a consult. So when people are like, hey, I want to meet with you and I want to pick your brain, I'm like, get on the school app and you'll be able to pick my brain all year long. And it'll cost you less than actually sitting down with me and having a consult. So you can go ahead and click on that. That'll take you exactly to where you need to go. So live question and answer. So we're going to be asking or answering some questions I got during the week. I will tell you this, guys, if you do have a question right now, I'm going to make sure that we get through what we need, and I'm going to do my best in order to answer your questions. And so I will tell you, I can only see questions that are coming in from Facebook. I can only see it from YouTube as well. And so just make sure if you do have a question, then your chance to ask that is right now. Although we have had some issues with things streaming through. So hopefully this is going all the way through to all the different platforms. I've had a little bit of software problems, but that's why I love technology so much, is that, you get answers to some of the challenges that you have, and then it just poses more challenges. So if you do have a question, now's the time to answer that question, because when I get through everything, I'll see if I can have some time in order to answer that question for you. Thank you guys so much for watching this live broadcast. So here's some of the questions I want to go over with you. Do you recommend extended fasting? Okay. So a lot of times people say, do you recommend fasting? And I'm like, well, what do you mean by fasting? Because a lot of principles of fasting gets misconstrued. Are you talking about time restricted eating, which really isn't true fasting? This is just when you kind of shrink your window down of when you can eat during a certain time frame. So you may fast for 20 hours, or you should restrict your food for 20 hours and you feed for 4 hours, or you may do 18 hours of not eating, 6 hours of feeding during that time. Or are you actually talking about a true fast, which I would say is 3 to 5 days. So like a 3 to 5 day fast. There's a big difference between the two, because it's truly not fasting until you are getting into, at least 48 hours. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of the food that you eat has not gone through the digestive system, depending on your transit time from the time you eat it into the time that you are, having a bowel movement and pooping it out. Sometimes that can take, for some people, 48 hours. So if you haven't eaten for 24 hours, you still have undigested food within the gastrointestinal system. So do you recommend extended fasting? And I'm going to talk specifically about fasting for 3 to 5 days. Now, here's one of the things. Have I fasted before? Absolutely. I have probably done about 20 3-day fasts. And in fact, I've done a couple of 5-day fasts. I've even fasted as long as 6 days. Yes, that means that I have had literally no food, no calories, no food, and basically just water and electrolytes for a whole entire 6 days. I did not have any kind of food or anything like that. So do I recommend extended fasting? The thing is yes, I look at certain things as tools. So do I recommend it? Yes, for certain people. But the biggest thing that I would tell you is that, fasting, you have to start looking at it like a tool, right? It's not an end all be all. And so that's why you have to start looking at it as having a lot of tools that you can utilize in order to help you start to overcome certain things. This is why there's never one thing that's going to push your health forward. Doing CrossFit is not going to take all of your problems away. Doing fasting is never going to take all your problems away. This is why we also look at food allergies as a tool. So if you know certain proteins are causing an inflammatory response, well, improve your digestion, improve your protein breakdown, and then also start to get rid of the foods for the time being that are causing an inflammatory response or making the immune system pretty angry. So that's why I look at fasting as a tool. So there are some people that I've recommended fasting to. Some people I'm like, don't you dare even do it. Okay. So what do I think about fasting? I think it's a great tool for a lot of people, but let me answer some of the specifics in regards to this. So number one, I think fasting will have the best benefit for men and also for postmenopausal women. So this means women who are in menopause. Now, what about fasting for cycling women? I don't recommend that usually at all. In fact, I've only recommended it a couple of times, but these for women that were cycling, and this is why really the only way for them to overcome, like a peptic ulcer or having an H. pylori infection was for them to restrict their eating for 48 to 72 hours just to decrease the amount of stomach acid in order to let certain ulcerations start to heal, and then do some other things, like with some chamomile or some licorice root or something like that in order to help it to start to heal. But one of the reasons why I don't recommend, fasting for cycling women is because it can be a pretty big stressor on the body. And in fact, it can actually wreck a woman's progesterone. So it can start to mess up your menstrual cycle. And in that case, we don't want to start messing, with that unless there's bigger pressing issues that are going to require you to fast in order to be able to heal from it. Can type 2 diabetics, can they fast? Can they do, a 3-day fast? The answer is yes, they probably can. However, this is what I always tell people. If you are taking medications for type 2 diabetes, you need to be checking your blood sugars. And the reason why is I've seen people's, like, because you're not eating, you're going to see your blood sugars go down, and then you're taking medications that are lowering it down even more. So that's why you have to be careful into watching that. And so a lot of times after a fast, people will need to decrease the amount of medication that they're taking. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. So for men in general, yes, a 3-day fast can be absolutely awesome. It can be beneficial for them. Postmenopausal women, typically yes. Cycling women, I would say no. And type 2 diabetics, typically yes. It can be very beneficial, but you just got to watch it if you're taking any kind of medication that's controlling your blood sugar, because you can cause that to dip way down too low. Okay. I love this picture right here. I hope little Elias is watching. But remember this. I remember at one point, this was a couple of years ago, is I did a 3-day fast every week for 6 weeks. Okay. Every week for 6 weeks. So from Sunday night until Wednesday, I withheld food and fasted for a whole entire 72 hours. And the idea, this has a lot to do with testosterone and things like that, is that the idea of fasting doesn't necessarily boost testosterone. It's really what happens when you start feeding the body again. So when you do a refeed and you start introducing foods, you can see testosterone, boom, start to pick back up again. And in fact, this made my testosterone pick up so much. And this is why I have a little 2-year-old that's running around right now. Hey, Elias, I hope you're watching. I love you, bud. This is him in front of his homemade car wash. In fact, if I can just brag just a little bit, I apologize. But Elias, he's just into the point where he is speaking and he's talking. And so he'll say something and I don't even understand what he's saying. But then at the end, he'll always finish off with a car wash. And I'm like, oh, okay. He's trying to say something about a car wash, but I have no idea why he is infatuated with car washes, but hey, we'll let it go. All right. We'll let him enjoy it. But this was during the time where this little boy was conceived. And if you know the whole story and the whole backstory behind a lot of it, you will look at this and you will say, wow, that's just an absolute miracle. And so that's why I'm always just so absolutely just enthralled with having him. He's one of the biggest blessings of my life, as are all my kids too. All right. So fasting, do I recommend it? Well, yes and no. It just depends on who you are, what your labs look like, type 2 diabetic, or medications that you're taking and things like that. Dr. Nate, I want to live with healthy longevity. What do I need to do? All right. So um, now here's the thing with healthy longevity. And I tell people define health. And most people can't define health at all. All right. Health is when your body is functioning and healing at 100%. So basically, if you're talking about healthy longevity, it is about living longer, but it's also living longer, healthier with better function and better healing. This is why, medicine has become enthralled with living longer. They say, oh, we're living longer than ever before. I'm like, yeah, I agree. We're also living longer, sicker than ever before. And so this is why you have to ask the question, is it living longer or living longer better? Okay. So, they can keep you hooked up with drugs and machines so that, you're in a nursing home, bedridden and blind and just, that's you would live longer, but are you actually living longer better? So I want to live with healthy longevity. I want to be vibrant. I want to have high energy for as long as possible. And I don't want to be going to 19 doctor's appointments. What do I need to do? Okay. Here's one of the things with healthy longevity is reduce anything that's stressing out your body. Okay. Stressors. Reduce anything that is stressing out your body. Now, I always tell people you cannot live a life without any stress, with zero stress. And in fact, some stress can actually be very beneficial, like the idea of stressing your body enough to cause it to adapt. That would be called exercise. But this is the whole idea behind what we do, which is actually the whole entire chiropractic principle, is reducing mental, chemical, and physical stressors. This is why, if you really understand that, get to the inflammation talk that we have tomorrow night, July 1st at 6 o'clock p.m. if you're from the Chicagoland area. But I would also say this is one of the biggest things when it comes to healthy longevity is going to be muscle mass, preserving your muscle mass. I know I talked about sarcopenia last week, but there's so many people who, as they get older, they're losing muscle mass. They're losing a lot of proprioception in their feet. They're getting weak hands. They're just getting weak and they're just decaying. So muscle mass, strength training, and flexibility, one of the most important things that I would say you can do in order to enjoy healthy longevity. Okay. Now, here's something that's really, really interesting. And I saw this come across an email last week. All right. And it's this quick but not so easy test can predict how long you'll live, study suggests. Okay. Here's what they say. What test is this that does play a role in longevity? Because the test requires strength, requires flexibility, and requires a lot of proprioception or a lot of joint awareness, especially within your feet, which a lot of people do have very, very weak feet. And if you don't believe me, go to Disney World and see how many people are in a mobility scooter, or they're walking around in Hokas, which is some of the worst footwear I think you can get because it's so heavily cushioned. You don't want heavily cushioned footwear, guys. So the sitting to rising test requires balance, muscle strength, and flexibility. And here's what it is: to be able to sit down on the floor without using your arms, hands, or knees, and then stand up again, just as unaided. So really, one of the tests that you want to do is your ability to be able to stand, to be able to sit down and not require your hands or get onto one knee, but just to be able to sit all the way down and be able to get up without using your elbows, your hands, or your knees in order to be able to get back up. Guys, I'm going to tell you something. I have not tried this test. I tried it. I think it was on Thursday, and I was able to get down, but man, I had a hard time getting back up. And that just has to do with me missing a little bit of flexibility. And so immediately when I saw that, I'm like, I need to get back onto doing the You Don't Know Squat challenge in order to work on my hip and my ankle flexibility to be able to do that. So it was not pretty, but I'm going to be working on that. And I will show you a later video of me finally being able to do that again. So, but this test right here really what they're talking about is longevity has a lot to do with muscle mass, with strength, with flexibility and things like that. And this is why I think that everyone should be working on this. Even if you don't think that you're quote unquote getting older, because man, I am getting older. But this is why joining the Get Fit Challenge is going to be so important. I think this is going to be so important because there's probably guys doing this will be a wake up call for you. And you're going to realize I should have been working on this about 10 years ago. Okay. Next question. I think we got some questions that are coming in too. So if you do have a question, make sure that you ask that now and I'll answer it in the order that it was asked. How do I get my husband's testosterone up? All right. Now, when it comes to a man's testosterone, the number of men who have asked, how do I get my testosterone up, has been pretty much zero. But the number of husbands, wives asking that question has been literally at 100%. So testosterone is absolutely huge. But how do you naturally improve a man's testosterone? Well, here's some of the things that you need to ask. Okay. Does this individual have any blood sugar issues? Because that is going to play a huge role in a lot of things. How much body fat are they carrying? Because if you're carrying an excessive amount of body fat, fat cells aren't just inert. They're just not, they don't, not like they don't do anything. Because if you want to convert testosterone into estradiol, carry a lot of body fat. Okay. Now, the other thing too is sleep and chronic stress. Sleep can contribute to about 10% of a man's testosterone, but chronic stress can absolutely destroy a man's testosterone. And in fact, I have actually tested, military special forces after being in a chronically high stress situation. And I've seen their testosterone absolutely tanked. And in fact, in some cases, not much higher than a healthy woman's testosterone. That's a big, big problem. So chronic stress can cause a big, big issue. And sleep, yes, that can contribute to it, but we're really only talking about maybe 5-10% of a man's total overall testosterone. But the other question too is are they lifting weights in a way to create a demand for more testosterone? And then you want to look at their nutrition are they getting the constituents in order to build a healthy testosterone response? And this is why, guys, keeping your sugars low is huge. And then also, making sure that you're getting enough of those constituents. And this is why organ meats, specifically liver, and then also zinc can play a huge role. So, a lot of times if I see a man's testosterone start to suffer, we'll initially start to give them organ meats and we'll give them foods that are going to be, or supplements that are going to be high in zinc. This would be things like oysters. And we make sure that ours are not toxic, that are coming from, the Pacific Ocean, which tends to be a lot less toxic than the Atlantic Ocean. But things that are going to be high in zinc are going to be seafood too. So you want to make sure that you're getting the constituents, that you're stressing out the body by lifting weights, but you're not having so much chronic stress that you're maintaining a relatively low body fat. And you definitely don't want any blood sugar issues because all of that can actually crush a man's testosterone. This is why, a lot of times, people say, oh, as men get older, their testosterone goes down. And I'm like, well, I agree, but try to figure out why that's happening. And a lot of times there's a lot of lifestyle issues that are absolutely crushing a man's testosterone. Okay. Now, I will say this. Testosterone boosting supplements are a complete scam. I really think that they are. And people will ask me, once a week, what do you think of this? And here's the reason why is because they don't figure out why. Okay. They don't figure out why a man's testosterone is going to be low, nor are they actually in high enough dosages. And in fact, if you see most testosterone boosting supplements, they'll put a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of that. It's almost just like throwing wet noodles at a wall, and hopefully some of them will stick. But I would tell you this, some of the things that they have in there are just not going to be in high enough doses in order to move the needle. But in fact, too, your lifestyle is way, way more important than that. And in fact, if I have a man who's got low testosterone, he's coming in, do you know what I recommend that he starts doing? I recommend zero supplements because you want to fix the lifestyle first. You go back and remeasure after that, and then you can figure it out and pare it down to maybe one or two that's really going to help move the needle. Okay. That's why I say this, be wary of any supplements that have multiple ingredients in it. You really do want to be wary of supplements that have a bunch of ingredients in it. And the reason why, if you actually look at manufacturing, and we get this question too, is they're like, well, what about this? This like adrenal herbal formula, and then you look at it, and it's got licorice and ashwagandha, and it's got all these little things that are in there. And I tell them they're probably not even in the capsule, or if it's in some kind of liquid form, they throw all of these into a batch. They just dip it in, and then they say, oh, it's in there, but it's probably not even in the capsule. It's probably not even in the bottle as well. And so that's why a lot of our liquid herbs are just one thing, because we want to know that 100% of what's in there is going to be on the label. It's actually in the bottle too. So this is why you want to be wary of any supplement that has multiple ingredients, because I'm going to tell you it's probably not even in there. And if it is, it's just not going to be in high enough dosages. Okay. So this is why, yes, there are some things that you can do, but I have a note here that says this should be based off of labs, and this should then be based off of retesting. Okay. So can you take a male glandular? Yes, absolutely, because that's going to have bull testicle in it. You can take a separate zinc. It might be tribulus, which is more of a, like a follicle stimulating hormone or a testosterone stimulator more than anything else, tribulus. Passion flower, which can work as an aromatase inhibitor, and also helps to reduce a lot of stress. Nettle leaf, in particular, if people have a lot of bound testosterone, this is also true with a lot of women who have a lot of bound testosterone, not a lot of free testosterone. Because just remember, you can have all the testosterone in the world, but if it's all bound up, then it's just not going to be bioavailable. And then, yes, even reishi mushrooms are things that can help. And in fact, the individual that I had that came in, we just pounded him with tons of reishi mushrooms and things that are going to affect hormone conversion and prostate health, because a lot of this, no matter how you cut the cake, is going to be based off of labs. Fix the lifestyle things that are going, remeasure this, retest this again. And then that way you're not taking 19,000 things in order to boost your testosterone. You can really look at it and say, here's the things that are going to move the needle, obviously the most. Okay. Dr. Nate, how can I improve my digestion? How can I improve my digestion? All right. Well, guys, I will tell you this. You need to be into more rest and digest and not fight or flight. So this is why chronic stress can be one of the biggest factors that can really cause issues when it comes to your digestion. But if you want to improve your digestion the quickest, test. Please test. So this is why I recommend getting IgG, IgE food allergy testing. Probably look at a stool test too to see how you're breaking down your proteins, to see gallbladder function, pancreatic enzyme activity, if you're running an infection within the gastrointestinal system, any kind of like parasitic infection, but also look at the inflammatory response around the barrier of the gastrointestinal system. When we do stool testing, guys, it gives so much information. This is not what your medical doctor is doing. This is looking at the whole digestive system functionally to see how everything is functioning. So this is why, if you want to improve digestion, test. Please test. Please work with the Wellness Way doctor, and get your foods done. Probably get a stool test done in order to see, all those different things that are going on. And guys, when we get this also lets us know if you need to be getting more fiber. Okay. Now, I had a video where I told people you probably need to be getting more fiber. And this, one individual, and I guarantee he's a carnivore, does the carnivore diet. And that when people attach themselves, or they attach their self-esteem to their diet and something like that, they tend to get a little bit indignant. He said, I don't need fiber. I'm not a gorilla or a cow. And you know what I wanted to say? I want to say, no, that's right. You're not a gorilla. You're not a cow. But do you drink water? Because gorillas and cows do that. But do you drink water? But you do need water, no matter if you're a human, a gorilla, or a cow. And just the fact that if you're not a gorilla or cow doesn't necessarily change the fact that, yes, you do in fact need fiber. Okay, you need fiber. However, there are some things that you can do that can start improving digestion right away. Betaine hydrochloric acid, getting extra stomach acid in can play a huge role with how you're breaking down proteins and things like that. Albizia can be great. Oregon grape can be great too, especially if you got blood sugar issues or you're carrying infection within the gastrointestinal system. And yes, I would actually say massively increase your fiber. Start getting more fiber in, because remember, fiber plays a role in so many different things. And yes, it does play a role in blood sugar control. It does play a huge role in satiety. And in fact, if you want to just feel hungry all the time, just eat a bunch of processed carbs and let me know how you're doing. So this is why getting lots of fiber, getting lots of protein, things like that can be hugely beneficial, just to make sure that you're not specifically overeating. All right. All right, guys. So that's what I wanted to go over. And let's see if we have some questions, some questions that I can answer for people. Okay. First one. So it's not a good idea for women that aren't menopausal to fast. No, I wouldn't recommend it at all. Okay. So I wouldn't recommend it at all. All right. So Dennis, who I've seen on YouTube quite a bit. Thanks for joining us, Dennis. Can light stimulate the brain through the skin? I'm curious because an osteopath said that our skin has photoreceptors and this can disturb our sleep. No, I would actually say that where you're getting your photoreceptors are going to be on the back of your retina, which is going to be attached to your pineal gland. And so this is why, also, if you want to go out and get sun, this is why I don't recommend, to be wearing sunglasses all the time, because you will see, but this is why, if you want your sleep disturbed, then have a lot of blue light, especially during times where you should have complete darkness. Okay. So, but that's a good question. But sometimes I think that it comes down to splitting hairs just a little bit. So, Sherry Johnson, thank you for joining us. What causes kidney stones? Well, there's a lot of factors. A lot of things that you will see are multifactorial. But I would actually say, if you look at kidney stones, look at your kidney function and then see what is really interfering with kidney function. But I would say one of the biggest things that can cause some issues with kidney stones can be what's happening on a stool test, because there are certain bacteria that will help to metabolize things that can then form stones. And so I know people think that it's crazy, but I've seen people come in and they've had terrible issues with stones. And then you start looking at the certain bacteria that are populating within their gastrointestinal system. And then you work on that. I've had people who've had stones for 3 or 4 times a year, or they've gone 6, 7 years without getting any kind of stones. So this is why, kidney stones, I'm like, you want to look at the kidneys, but in reality, one of the things you want to look at is you want to look at to see how the body is breaking down certain things within the gastrointestinal system. And this is why good gastrointestinal health, this is why having certain healthy bacteria. Guys, this is like the Swiss watch approach, because everything affects everything. Because I'll give you an example. If you get your gallbladder out, you get your gallbladder removed. And yes, I've seen some people who have needed to get it removed because it was so sick and it was so diseased. But I've seen them get their gallbladder removed. And then I've seen after not supporting the body for a long period of time, and you just see, a terrible bacterial profile on in their gastrointestinal system on a stool test. And you see all kinds of issues that are going on. They're usually running infection within the gastrointestinal system. And that's why, everything does in fact affect everything. You have to look at it not just 2-dimensionally. You have to start looking at it like the Swiss watch and start looking at it 3-dimensionally. And this is why we get clinical results, is because we start looking at how everything starts to affect everything else. So, but if you're having issues with kidney stones, I definitely would be looking at a stool test first and foremost. So, so Tanya, I don't know if it's Tanya Ross or Ross and Tanya or whatever. My pleasure. I appreciate you joining us. Make sure that you like our page, make sure you follow our page, make sure that you share this video with other people. So what do I use for electrolytes? What do I use for electrolytes? Well, one of the first things I told an individual this today is electrolytes are really what you're talking about is things like sodium and potassium. I'm going to drink a drink of my not plain water. So electrolytes this is why I say don't avoid salt. I think you should be getting a teaspoon of salt every single day. Get some, Himalayan pink salt or some Redmond salt or some Celtic sea salt, and, start using that to salt your food. I would be using it also to put a little bit of salt in your water. I also take potassium every single day, and it just kind of depends on the day. But I will easily take 1,000 milligrams of potassium citrate every single day, only because I know I'm not getting enough potassium, and I'm working out, sweating, losing, electrolytes at the same time. But then also tonight, I will eat tons of vegetables, tons of vegetables, as much as I want. So, but as far as adding it to my water, I'll use key nutrients. You can also use LMNT electrolytes, although I don't like the taste of it as much because it tastes a little bit salty. But you do, in fact, do need some electrolytes. And I think that that's really, really important. That's why I tell people, if you're drinking, when you say you need to drink a gallon of water a day, I'm like, what you need is you need some electrolytes, because there's a lot of people who are just pounding water, but they're just so mineral deficient, electrolyte deficient. It's it's it can be just a real issue. All right. So I see Kathy is on. I missed the first part. Are you going to sit down and get up without using your hands tonight? Not tonight. All right. And the reason why is because I squatted yesterday, so my legs my legs are a little bit sore. So, but I did do a lot of mobility work yesterday, and I will do some more, tomorrow, because, it's like kind of like one of those things. If you don't use it, you tend to lose it, and so that's why everything requires maintenance, including your health, including your mobility, including working out. Everything requires a lot of maintenance. Okay. All right. So, thank you very much, Tanya. I appreciate it. I really appreciate all the work you've done over the years. Well, I'll keep going. All right. And I just, one of the things that keeps me going is people, who have nice things to say. All right. So social media can be really mean, really rough. And, so I see some people on there, and man, I want to ask the question, who hurt you? Who hurt you? Holy cow. All right. So thank you very much for your kind words. I will keep it up. All right. Terry, hey Terry, so good to see you. Do you think a weighted vest help women avoid osteoporosis? Um, I don't think that it hurts, but I don't know that it necessarily helps as much. I think it's kind of overstated. I think one of the best things in order to avoid osteoporosis, especially with women as they get into menopause, is you probably need to carry a little bit more body fat, and you need to be doing weight training. And in fact, I think that women should be weight training their whole life and not just having a diagnosis of osteoporosis. But this has a lot to do with, iron absorption, body fat, having enough stomach acid. But if someone does in fact have, osteoporosis, I think one of the most important things is can a weighted vest help? I think it can a little bit, but this is also why I think doing some I think some of the main things is that that you are doing some things like weight training, and this is going to be pressing. It's going to be things like deadlifting, back squatting, and things like that. And in fact, I also would probably invest in a vibration platform. You can go to thewellnessway.com, and I think they do in fact carry vibration platforms. You just need to make sure it vibrates at the right frequency, which is going to be at about 30 hertz. But that also has been shown to help improve bone mass at that time. Okay. What do you think of consuming a little bit of Celtic sea salt with water? I think it's fine. Okay. So I think that it's fine. Pink sea salt is bad because it's full of heavy metals because of the way China mines it. Yeah, I think that there's probably some sea salt that will have, probably some bad minerals, in it as well. But just remember this is, pediatricians will say there's no problem, with some of these quote unquote jibby jabbies, that's going on. And this is why I think eating potentially heavy metals, and I'm not telling you to go do it, is going to be safer for you than bypassing all your barriers and injecting it straight into your body. Okay. So this is why you do need a lot of salt. But all these things are going to be really important for you. But I don't want people to have to micromanage everything so much, because I see so many people micromanage their health so much, and in fact, the only thing that it does is just kind of overburdens them and kind of freaks them out just a little bit. So, that's why I tell people You need to be into rest and digest as much as possible. You need to be able to break down your food. You need to make sure you're getting enough protein. Structurally, you need to make sure that you are on point. Um, and so that's why we always talk about physical stressors, mental stressors, chemical stressors. All those things are going to be so important. And in fact, it's one of the reasons why that I have this little boy. Oops, hold on a second. It's one of the reasons why I have this little boy who's running around. And let me see if I can pull this back up. Here we go. All right, got it back up. But I wanted to show you this. It's one of the reasons why I have this little boy running around was because of what we did. This is our Wellness Way story of what we did in order to reduce down stressors. Because the thing is this: the body was created to heal, the body was created to adapt. And if it can't, there's just too many stressors that are going on, and it just doesn't allow the body to be able to heal. So, this is why when I say lower down stressors, physical, mental, chemical, as much as you can. Um, because once you start doing that, you start emptying out the bucket so that the body can start to catch up and it can start to heal and start to function the way that it was supposed to. So this is why stressors are so important, which is a whole chiropractic principle: physical, mental, chemical stressors. And and this is why this little boy is running around today because of that whole idea. This is why we get clinical results, because if you know the body is designed to heal, and if you do really good at being able to eliminate stressors and supporting the body along that whole journey, this is why you see a miracle take place with so many different people. And it's not just going and running and dumping a bunch of medications. The reason why is we have people who are living longer but sicker than ever before, and this is why I think healthcare really, really needs to change quite a bit. So, thank you guys very much for your questions. Any other questions that we have going on? So, thank you very much. I agree. He is very cute, and he is one of the biggest blessings in my life, as all of my kids. I love my kids. I don't want to say I'm just pointing him out. My kids actually watch the live broadcast, and I love them to death. I am so proud of them, especially. So, all right, guys. So, last thing that I want to ask you guys, since we have a lot of people that are on the on the broadcast right now, and I want you to answer this question right now. Next week, should I do a topic on fasting, the ins and outs of fasting? Okay, should I do a topic on that? Leave your comments on this live broadcast and let me know. Because if I have enough people that say, "Yep, I would really want to know about that," then I'll definitely consider that. Okay. So, should I do a live broadcast next week on fasting, on the ins and outs of fasting? Just let me know, guys. And let me know if that's something that you would be interested in learning a little bit more about at this time. So, guys, I appreciate all of you. Thank you guys so much for joining this live broadcast, and share this video with other people. If you don't already follow us, make sure that you follow our page, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on Rumble, whether you're on YouTube. Make sure that you follow our page, and stay up to date on all our great content that we have coming out. Next week, we may be doing more on Fasting 101. So the only thing is, I'll tell you is that for a lot of you, I may say, don't do it, just because of some of the ins and outs of doing that. So, guys, thank you very much for joining this live broadcast. Again, share this video. We'll see a lot of you at the hopefully at the inflammation talk that's coming up next tomorrow, July 1st at 6:00 p.m. If you're from the Chicagoland area, just make sure you go to that link tree and register for it. Take you 60 seconds to register. So I can't wait to see you guys then. So, guys, be well, be blessed. Remember who you are, and I will see you guys next week, maybe on the live topic of fasting. So be well, guys, and we'll see you guys very soon.